Teenage daughter's party resulted in my youngest being harmed by 4 men, and now I'm struggling to trust and forgive. I am a widow and the mother of 3 children, but right now, my world revolves around my 2 youngest daughters, Leah, 14, and Maya, 18. Heartbreak doesn't begin to describe what our family has endured since last December, when Leah was brutally assaulted by 4 men. The horror began when Maya, tasked with watching over her sister while I worked the night shift, threw a party at our home. I had trusted Maya with this responsibility. This wasn't something dumped on her. I paid her well to keep an eye on Leah, a long-standing agreement that gave me peace as I worked to provide for us. I'd made my boundaries crystal clear: no parties, make sure Leah does her homework, and see to it she gets to bed at a reasonable hour. But Maya ignored all of it. Without my knowledge, she invited 4 boys she knew personally, boys who, I'd later learn, had ties to gangs. That night, one of the boys harassed Leah persistently, trying to force himself on her, while Maya ignored her little sister's discomfort. Overwhelmed, Leah retreated to her bedroom for safety. When Maya left to go to McDonald's, Leah was left unprotected in a house full of strangers. As soon as Maya walked out, the boys followed Leah upstairs and subjected her to a terrible assault. The horror continued beyond that moment. My baby girl's cries were heard by other partygoers, but no one did anything. People assumed it was a lover's quarrel and just kept going with their night. I didn't know what had happened to Leah until the next morning, when the party was over and the damage was irreparable. Taking Leah for a forensic examination was the most traumatizing moment of my life as a mother. Weeks later, we discovered she'd contracted a treatable sexually transmitted infection from those perpetrators. The light in Leah's eyes hasn't been the same since. She quit cheerleading, opted to do her freshman year online, and will only sleep in my bed, clinging to her late father's hoodies as if they're a shield from the world. I try to comfort her, but I feel utterly helpless. Throughout the investigation, it became painfully clear that Maya hadn't set her sister up. She wasn't complicit, but her neglect and her refusal to heed my rules made this avoidable nightmare possible. What haunts me most is how little she understood the threat she brought into our home. My heart is still raw from realizing Maya put Leah in harm's way, and even though Maya has shown remorse, Leah doesn't hold any anger toward her. They're still sisters, still loving, but I can't find forgiveness yet. Every time I see Maya, the anger surges within me. Prom is next weekend, and I can't bring myself to care. She tries to talk, but I can only manage polite detachment. Despite everything, I love Maya. It's just that, right now, my disappointment in her drowns out any affection. I've thrown myself into self-help books, desperate to learn how to heal, how to show up for both my daughters without losing myself to this rage. Therapy is the only place I can truly let go, where the urge to scream at Maya fades enough that I can think clearly. Leah isn't in therapy yet, she's not ready, she says, though maybe after the sentencing she'll reconsider. Maya is supposed to go, but she often skips appointments. As for me, therapy is my lifeline, the only thing anchoring me. After everything, there is no trust between Maya and me. She'll never be left in charge of Leah again. I don't see that changing for a long time. For now, I'm on leave from work, just trying to hold our little world together. Many people have told me to send Maya to my parents' house, just for a while, to create some space for everyone to breathe. I'm starting to think it may be what's best. To clear things up, Maya is not, as far as I know, involved in any gang. The worst I've ever caught her doing is vaping or smoking some pot, and I truly can't believe she'd ever deliberately put Leah in harm's way. I'm convinced her mistake that night was devastating negligence, not malice. If she had intentionally set up her sister, I have faith it would have come out during the investigation. For context, the boy she tried to set Leah up with was 17 then, now 18, while the other 3 were grown men. Every day feels like navigating a minefield of pain, guilt, and unspoken words, but I won't give up on healing. For Leah, for Maya, and for myself. Update 1. To put it simply, Maya was arrested the same night Leah was attacked. The charges were felony child endangerment and 2 misdemeanors. The judge went fairly easy on her. She had to pay a $2,000 fine, complete 60 hours of community service, and serve 3 years of probation. I also took away her car. Truthfully, after everything that's happened, I wonder if I should have been even harsher. Thursday afternoon, Maya and I got into a heated fight. Leah came to me, visibly shaken and on the verge of tears. 5 people had messaged her that day expressing sympathy for the attack. Leah has made it crystal clear she doesn't want anyone she knows to find out she was the victim. After digging, I learned Maya told a group chat of 27 people all about what happened to her sister. Leah told me how humiliated she felt, and insisted she could never go back to school. I confronted Maya, but she insisted I was overreacting and that Leah was being dramatic. I tried to make her understand how much she'd hurt her sister, but she kept deflecting. She cut me off mid-lecture, snapped, "Jesus Christ, Mom, you need to let her deal with this shit instead of always rushing to her defense. Leah is no different from other women who get raped. At least they don't make it their whole personality like she does. She's fine." I literally overheard her talking to a boy on the phone last night. It was at that moment it clicked, she felt no remorse. I realized I'd just seen her mask finally crumble. I told her to pack her things and stay with my parents until further notice. She did, but the next morning, Maya texted me, asking me to meet her at her therapist's appointment. Looking back, I almost regret going. Her therapist seemed determined to only see things from Maya's side. At the start, Maya apologized and tried explaining why she told her friends. She was venting, she said, and besides, Leah's case is public and she seemed fine these days. Leah isn't named publicly though, just listed as Jane Doe. We got into the messy details. Maya said, right there in front of the therapist, that she felt emotionally neglected by me, that I never cared about her trauma being that weekend in jail, and losing one of her friends, who, horrifyingly, was one of Leah's actual rapists. It felt like a nightmare. For 30 minutes, the therapist talked about how I should be more emotionally available for Maya, especially since their father is gone now. But honestly, I refused to be the one consoling Maya about the loss of a friend who ruined her sister's life. To make things worse, the therapist kept calling what happened to Leah an accident, and relied on Maya for information. Maya saying Leah seems happier these days, when Leah is mostly high on antidepressants and still scoring abysmally on mental health evaluations. Eventually, I lost it. I told them both, I think it's disgusting that you're refusing to acknowledge Leah's trauma and keep referring to it as an accident. Maya, you spent a weekend in jail, while your sister was in the hospital suffering from something your friend did to her. If you actually listened to Leah, you'd know your friend was the most violent, was the one who strangled her, who caused most of the injuries. For both of you to berate me for not mourning the loss of your friend is sick. My only regret is that I helped you get a lawyer. I should have let you rot in that cell. Maya started sobbing, saying it wasn't fair I blamed her for what happened to Leah. She kept insisting she just wanted Leah to come out of her shell, that she was only trying to help because Leah hovered next to her at the party. The therapist interrupted, asking how Leah responded when Maya apologized. Maya snapped, apologize for what? I didn't rape her. Even the therapist looked shocked. At that point, I stood up, threw my hands in the air, and left. I haven't spoken to Maya since that Friday. She's been texting and calling, begging to come home to apologize to me and Leah. I don't know if I can even stomach being around her. I can't trust her, and she's not remorseful. Part of me wants to try for Leah's sake. She asked yesterday if she ruined our family. That broke my heart. Leah loves and looks up to Maya, and right now she can't manage to understand that Maya failed her, too. I just feel stuck. Let me back up and explain what happened that morning. I came home about 8:30 a.m. after work and found my house trashed, several of Maya's friends still lingering. I had words with Maya about throwing a party. When I checked on Leah, she wasn't in her room, but I noticed her sheets were bloody. At first, I thought maybe it was her time of the month, maybe she was in the shower or sleeping in my bed. But when I checked my room, she wasn't there either. I started calling her phone and heard it ringing from inside my closet. It's a walk-in. I found her inside, wrapped in a blanket like a cocoon. When I tried to wake her, she didn't respond. I unwrapped her and saw blood on her scalp and abrasions on her neck. I screamed for someone to call 911. In the ambulance, Leah woke up sobbing. The very first thing she told me was Maya's friend attacked me. I can't get up, I'm in so much pain. When the police and ambulance arrived, nothing else mattered, except Leah. I told Maya to be honest with the police, thinking she'd be fine. I didn't know any of the darker details at that point. The police interrogated Maya, and after the medical reports came in, they decided to charge her with child endangerment. I didn't see Maya's initial reaction once she was told what happened to her sister, but when she saw Leah after getting out of jail, she hugged her tightly. For a moment, I thought it was sweet, but in hindsight, the real red flag was Maya's refusal to give out the names of the people involved. She claimed she forgot. Fortunately, DNA results from the scene matched everything. The 4 kids who raped Leah were already in the system for other crimes, one even on probation. The police found them quickly after that. I haven't roped my oldest son much into this. He got married just a month before everything crumbled, and I wanted him to enjoy the honeymoon phase with his wife. Still, he and his wife have been incredibly supportive. His wife often takes Leah for sleepovers or just to get her out of the house. Leah, F14, is so deeply depressed. She's gone through 2 major traumas within 4 years, her father's death and her assault. I try to remember what it was like when I was 14, but I had both my parents. I never experienced what she's suffering now. This morning, I overheard her crying in the bathroom. I asked if she was okay. She insisted she was fine. As her mom, it's agonizing to know there's nothing I can do to make things right or take her pain away. I feel useless, like a failure. And there's another layer to all of this. I have 3 children, my son, M24, Maya, F18, and Leah, F14. When my husband died unexpectedly of COVID 4 years ago, he didn't have a will, but we had $360,000 in life insurance. I divided it 4 ways, $120,000 for me, and $80,000 for each child. My daughters were too young to access their shares, but I always allowed them to use it for something important or expensive. My son, being 20 at the time, got his full share right away. This was a verbal agreement all around, and I meant to stick to it. Maya, though, had to use about $15,000 from her share to pay for lawyers and court fees, leaving her with $65,000. Now, she's graduated and is begging me for the rest of her money, and I'm struggling. Leah still struggles daily, scoring low on mental health evaluations and dependent on antidepressants. Maya no longer lives with us because her presence makes things worse for Leah, but she keeps begging for the inheritance. My sister says Maya doesn't deserve the money and that I should use it to stay home longer with Leah, who will be alone during the day once I go back to work. With Leah's mental health declining and school out, I'm scared. Maya is starting college soon, and I know most of the inheritance would go to that. But I can't shake my anger at Maya for the pain she's caused her sister. I feel lost with this decision. I honestly don't know what the right thing is anymore. Update 2. My daughter Leah has been struggling deeply in the aftermath of her rape last December. This past week was, by far, the most devastating for us yet. It began last Tuesday, when a sheriff and another official came to our door. They told me that one of Leah's rapists, the one who recorded the attack, had shared the video in a group, and it had made its way onto parts of the dark web. Even worse, it was filmed right there in Leah's room, and included objects that clearly identified where she went to school. My heart broke hearing this. But Leah's reaction caught me off guard. She barely flinched, didn't cry, and barely spoke. She just shrugged and said, "I figured," and sat there, lost in her own silence. The officials tried to reassure us, saying it was rare for perpetrators to physically surface in cases like these, but they still felt obligated to warn us for safety reasons. Once they left, Leah simply carried on as though nothing had happened, smiling too brightly, cheerful to the point where it seemed forced. I kept trying to get her to talk about what happened, but she would shut down or change the subject. This strange calmness lasted the whole week until she suddenly told me she had written a victim impact statement. Leah insisted on reading it herself in court, refusing to let the prosecutor read it for her, because with no trial, only the charges were known. No one truly knew what she'd endured. The statement is raw, a vivid recounting of that nightmare, but she hasn't been able to read it through to me without breaking down in tears. That was the only time I saw any real emotion from her all week, until Saturday night. That evening, Leah was her oddly cheerful self again. She told me she was going to bed early, around 8 p.m. I didn't think much of it. But later, I got a call from the mother of Leah's closest friend, frantic. Leah had sent her daughter a message, a note just saying how much she loved her, asking her to check in on her. Immediately, I raced to Leah's room and found her. You can't imagine the panic, as she'd attempted to overdose on ZQuil. As a nurse, I knew she'd recover physically, but as a mother, it broke me to see my baby like that. When she came to in the hospital, her pain scream still echoes in my ears. "Why couldn't you just let me die? I want to die, Mom. I'm tired of feeling their hands on me. I want it to stop. Please let me die." They had to sedate her. Afterward, she was put on a 72-hour psychiatric hold, then moved to a youth mental health facility. The staff there recommended extending her stay. She's not adjusting well. She's uncomfortable, particularly with a male staff member, possibly the psychiatrist, who's been asking invasive questions about her sexuality. She's withdrawn, not participating in groups, keeping to herself, and staff even suggested limiting her contact with me if she continued to resist. I begged them to hold off on that. I can't shake her words, her plea to just let her die. Then, Leah's best friend reached out and told me something I hadn't known. There's a malicious rumor going around that Leah let a train be run on her, and that she only involved the police out of embarrassment. It broke my heart. Kids can be so cruel, and my daughter is living not just with her trauma, but their ridicule. As for my other daughter Maya, who's 18, we haven't spoken in 2 weeks, but I recently learned more about the strain between her and Leah. 2 years ago, I found inappropriate texts between Leah and Maya's ex-boyfriend, a boy who was 17, while Leah was only 12. He messaged Leah, telling her she was much prettier than Maya and saying things about her being a virgin. When I showed Maya, she was furious, dumped her boyfriend, and believed Leah had intentionally betrayed her by keeping up the conversation. Maya avoided Leah for 3 months, and even with all of Leah's apologies, she never really forgave her. Leah still blames herself for damaging their relationship. It's a weight she carries every day. I am just so tired, bearing these horrible burdens quietly for my daughter's sakes. Now, I'm faced with yet another impossible choice, deciding if Leah is truly ready to speak at her rapist's sentencing. I know she desperately wants to read her statement, but I fear she isn't stable enough to withstand this trauma, especially since the boys have character witnesses testifying for them. I don't know what the right decision is anymore. I just want my daughters to heal. Update 3. After speaking more with Leah about her experience with the psych, I finally got the full picture of what happened that made her feel so uneasy. When I left her alone, they had her sit down with the psychiatrist for a one-on-one debrief. He wanted to find out why she was there and what was causing her to have these thoughts. Leah opened up and told him about the rape. But then, he started pressing her with questions that struck me as uncomfortable and unnecessary. He asked if this was her only sexual experience. Leah told him yes, but he kept questioning her, like he doubted her answer. He insisted that she could tell him if there were any others, that he wouldn't share it with me. Still, Leah repeated over and over that this was truly her only experience. Then it got even more awkward. He started asking about her sexuality, if she was still attracted to men. She tried to brush it off and told him that she wasn't thinking about relationships right now. The whole interaction made her feel weird, especially because he was so insistent about her sex life, and there was no one else in the room. Just those two, behind a closed door. I don't want to jump to conclusions and accuse the psychiatrist of being a creep. Maybe he was just following protocol, but a professional should have known better. With her history, if those kinds of questions were necessary, he could have had a female staff member ask them, or at least had a woman present during the conversation. Surely, he must have seen her chart before meeting her, he must have known. Honestly, it just feels like common sense and decency. Update 4. So much has happened over the past few weeks, and I want to share it all, starting with the positives because there have been some small steps forward. After the sentencing, Leah began therapy, and I've noticed a real lightness in the way she talks about it. She was surprised that her therapist didn't force her to talk about the assault, just having that choice was a relief for her. The therapist recommended EMDR sessions, and her first one is coming up next week, so I'm hopeful. Her doctor also gave her the go-ahead to get back into cheer if she wants, and suggested she start birth control. I'm still on the fence about that because I know those pills can really mess with your emotions and I don't want anything undoing the work we've started. On top of that, we finally moved into our new rental, and I decided to let Leah adopt a kitten. That little cat barely leaves her side now, it's as if she's poured all her love into it, and honestly, it's heartwarming to see her care for something so completely. We cleared out almost all of Leah's old furniture, wanting to help her start with a clean slate. My original thought was to give her this Pinterest-perfect room, but she's changed so much, she doesn't like any of that anymore and wants everything simple, barely any color. So for now, I let her lead the way and it's coming together gradually. She's also started seeing someone. He asked her out on the 4th, and I actually know this boy's family. We grew up together, so I trust him. He's the right age, comes from good people, but I have this nagging worry that she's growing a little too attached. If he's not with us, they're glued to their phones, always FaceTiming, always wanting him to come along everywhere. I think it's just the summer and the excitement of something new, but I'm watching closely. Underneath it all, there's an emptiness in my own heart. People don't always understand the way I make choices for my family, but I know my children better than anyone. Timing and clarity matter to me. I wanted all the facts nailed down before I sat my other kids down to talk about what happened, and before that, I met with the detective who interrogated Maya, to be absolutely certain I had done everything in my power to hold her accountable. The detective told me that, yes, Maya had been investigated, but there just wasn't enough evidence to indict her on anything more severe than child endangerment. She was charged for abandoning a minor she was meant to be watching in a house with a registered sex offender. But he gave me something I desperately needed: validation. He told me, from his experience working sex crimes, that Leah's attack had lasted nearly 2 hours. 2 of the men had enough time to rape her twice, and Maya never once checked on her. Never showed concern. That's why the detective arrested her. He also said that while Maya was responsible, there were so many other bystanders who failed Leah that night. Not just Maya. I sat down with my son and his wife before the sentencing. My son wasn't angry, just deeply disappointed. He'd always felt Maya resented Leah, and his wife recalled so many subtle, painful moments, how Maya could never give Leah a compliment, always found some way to tear her down, even in small ways like during bridesmaid dress fittings. She remembered a particularly chilling moment where Maya, after being told that Leah had so much potential, responded, "I know, that's why I have to humble her." My daughter-in-law never forgot that, and looking back now, it hurt her even more. When the sentencing day finally came, it was strange, almost anticlimactic. Leah told me she thought most of it was just boring. The families of the rapists came forward as character witnesses, desperate to preserve whatever happiness they could. One mother begged people to stop spreading more hurt, and one father claimed his son had only been triggered because he was also abused as a child. Leah held her head high, ignored all of it, but I could tell she was holding back emotion. She chose to read her victim impact statement out loud, and I could not have been more proud. Each rapist stood and apologized, but Leah only believed one of them could have meant it. 2 were sentenced to 10 years, could be paroled as soon as 6. The one who recorded the assault got 12 years because of prior convictions, and likely faces over 20 with a new CP charge against him. The final one, Maya's so-called friend, the one Leah was most afraid of, got 14 years, and the judge recommended no parole. Leah is okay with their sentences, even if she wishes all of them had gotten the full 14 years. She'll be notified if they're ever up for early release or parole. Maya was in court, but she stayed at the back and left as soon as court adjourned. Some of the rapists' families approached us directly, wanting to apologize, and that was the only moment Leah seemed genuinely rattled. Otherwise, she handled the day with strength. As we drove home, I tried my best to help Leah process everything, explain what's going to happen next. Once home, she brought up something that chilled me. She told me it was weird how one of the rapists had called Maya his friend, insisting Maya never hung out with people like that. That's when I knew I'd have to break the truth to her. I looked her in the eyes and said, "There's a lot of reasons I'm angry at your sister." She was puzzled until I explained that Maya's real charge was for leaving the house, not just for throwing the party. I told her that he wasn't lying, he was Maya's friend, and that Maya had gone behind Leah's back that night, to try and set them up. Watching the realization hit Leah was like watching someone's heart break in real time. She refused to believe it at first, insisting Maya couldn't possibly be friends with someone so horrible. I tried to soften the truth by saying they were never best friends, but there was some kind of relationship. Tears in her eyes, Leah said, "If that's true, that's really bad. No one understands how mean he was to me. All day in that courtroom, everyone treated him like a good person, but no one would believe me. I apologized over and over." Leah, shaking, pulled out her phone and called Maya on the spot. Maya answered, cheerful at first, until Leah asked if she'd ever been friends with her rapist. I braced myself for Maya to lie, but she admitted it. Leah then asked if Maya had actually tried to set her up, and Maya said yes. Leah hung up before Maya could say anything else. I watched her block Maya on every form of contact, then she looked up at me, devastated, and asked, "Mom, why does she hate me so much? What did I ever do to her? I've been trying to be her friend, and she still hates me. Why?" We just held each other and cried together, no words to make any of it right. The following day, Leah made her feelings clear. She wants nothing to do with Maya for a long time. After sleeping on it, she was more angry than sad. She opened up about how Maya always made her feel guilty, told her she ruined her senior year, and how Leah had carried the blame for what happened, thinking it was her fault for not locking the door. Now she realizes she did lock it and that Maya could have prevented everything. That betrayal was too much. Then Leah told me about Maya's issues with Adderall and painkillers, something she'd been keeping secret because Maya promised she was quitting. She found out Maya was stealing medication in April last year. Now, Leah thinks Maya may have traded her for drugs, especially since one of her rapists was Maya's dealer. She remembers him coming over at night while I was working. She also said that during the assault, her rapist threatened her by saying if she didn't cooperate, they'd hurt Maya, which makes the betrayal cut even deeper. Since then, Leah barely mentions Maya. She's adamant about being done with her. To help her, I spoiled her a bit and got her the kitten. Maya doesn't know where we live now, but she's tried to contact Leah using anonymous numbers. Leah's ignoring her. She doesn't live with my parents anymore. My mother-in-law, who I've always had a rocky relationship with, decided to take Maya in, pay for her college, and even bought her a new car, just to hurt me, I think. She posted about it on Facebook like it was something to celebrate, even knowing everything Maya did. She calls Maya a victim too, and even had the nerve to guilt-trip Leah, saying, "Your dad would hate to see you hold a grudge against your sister over a mistake." I cut off all contact after that. I've strongly considered filing a civil lawsuit against Maya, since my mill now wants to undermine all my parenting and erase what Maya did to Leah by propping her up. But my therapist thinks it won't help us heal, and maybe that's true. Still, it hurts. I wish I had a neater ending, or more hope to offer, but all I can say is that I feel I've lost 3 people in just 4 years. The grief is overwhelming sometimes. I lost the love of my life and both of my daughters, one hurt beyond repair, another I can't allow in our lives anymore because of what she's become. The loss of my little girl continues to haunt me, because she will never be the same, and I hold myself responsible for not seeing the warning signs sooner. I worry deeply about who Maya will become, and about anyone. Update 5. It's been 3 months since the sentencing, and I wanted to share where we are now because so many people have been asking. The road to healing isn't linear, and some days are harder than others, but we're making progress. Leah has been doing EMDR therapy twice a week, and while it's exhausting for her, I can see small changes. She's sleeping in her own bed most nights now, though she still keeps her kitten close. The nightmares haven't stopped completely, but they're less frequent. Her therapist says that's normal. Trauma healing takes time, and there will be setbacks. Last week, Leah actually laughed at something her boyfriend said, a real laugh, not the forced cheerfulness from before. It was the first time I'd heard that sound in months, and I had to excuse myself to cry in the bathroom. She's decided to go back to in-person school in the fall, which terrifies me, but her therapist thinks it's a good step. We've been working with the school counselor to make sure she has support systems in place. The rumors have mostly died down, thankfully, though I know some people still whisper. Leah says she's ready to face it, but I've made it clear that if it becomes too much, we can always go back to homeschooling. The hardest part for me is watching her navigate relationships with boys. She's dating this sweet kid from a good family, but I catch myself being overprotective in ways that probably aren't healthy. When he picks her up, I interrogate him about where they're going and when they'll be back. When they're hanging out in our living room, I find reasons to walk through every 10 minutes. Leah called me out on it last week, saying, "Mom, you're treating him like he's dangerous, and that's not fair to either of us." She was right, but it's so hard to find that balance between protecting her and letting her have normal teenage experiences. As for Maya, she's been trying to contact us through mutual friends and family members. My mother-in-law has been the worst about this, constantly telling anyone who will listen that I'm keeping the family apart and that Maya made one mistake. She even showed up at Leah's therapy appointment 2 weeks ago, demanding to speak with us. I had to threaten to call security. The woman bought Maya a car and is paying for her college, all while posting on social media about what a wonderful young woman she is. It makes me sick. Maya sent a long letter through my sister last month. In it, she apologized again and begged to see Leah, saying she'd learned so much about herself and wanted to make things right. But the letter was full of the same deflection and self-pity I've come to expect from her. She wrote about how hard it's been living with the guilt, how she's been in therapy, how she just wants her family back. But nowhere in those 5 pages did she truly acknowledge the depth of what her actions cost Leah. She kept calling it that night and what happened, never using the word rape, never acknowledging that her friend, her dealer, was the one who hurt Leah the most. I showed the letter to Leah, and she read it without saying a word. When she finished, she handed it back to me and said, she still doesn't get it. She's more worried about how she feels than what I went through. Then she asked me to throw it away, which I did. The inheritance issue has been weighing on me. Maya has been calling and texting about the money, saying she needs it for college expenses. My sister thinks I should give it to her, that holding on to it is just prolonging the pain for everyone. But I can't bring myself to do it. Every time I think about handing over that money, I remember finding Leah in my closet, broken and bleeding. I remember her suicide attempt. I remember her asking me why Maya hates her so much. How do I reward someone who caused that much pain? I've started seeing a financial counselor to help me figure out what to do with Maya's portion of the inheritance. One option is to put it in a trust that she can access when she's older, maybe 25 or 30, when she's hopefully matured enough to understand the weight of her actions. Another option is to use it for Leah's ongoing therapy and medical expenses, which insurance doesn't fully cover. I haven't decided yet, but I'm leaning toward the trust option. It feels like the most fair compromise, even if Maya won't see it that way. Work has been understanding about me taking extended leave, but I'll need to go back soon. The thought of leaving Leah alone during the day still scares me, but she's been doing better, and her therapist thinks some independence might actually help her healing process. We've set up a system where she can text me anytime, and I can work from home 2 days a week. I've also been going to therapy myself, trying to work through my anger and guilt. My therapist keeps telling me that I'm not responsible for what happened to Leah, that I made reasonable arrangements for her care. Intellectually, I know she's right, but emotionally, it's hard to accept. I trusted Maya with the most precious thing in my life, and she failed catastrophically. Learning to forgive myself for that trust is an ongoing process. The detective who worked Leah's case checked in with us last month. He said the video of her assault has been removed from the sites where it was found, and they're continuing to monitor for any reappearances. He also mentioned that one of the rapist's families has been asking questions about early release, which won't be possible for years, but will be notified if anything changes. Leah handled this news better than I expected. She just nodded and said she figured that would happen eventually. I will update this post if anything new comes along.